Hey guys, welcome back to Ravenclaw Reads. I'm Courtney, and today you're joining me for a bit of a book vlog, sort of unhaul, rehaul type thing. Today is a Saturday, and I'm so excited to, number one, be sitting in front of a different spot. This is one of my two bookshelves, but two, to be unhauling some books from my bookshelves. So, if you're new here, thank you for joining, popping on. Check out my other content to see if it's a channel you would like to subscribe to. Subscribing is free. And I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm almost there. So if you like it, subscribe and thank you. If you are returning, thanks so much for coming back. Don't forget to share this channel with a friend of yours so we can get to 1,000. So today my goal is to clear off my bookshelf of books that I'm not interested in, that I've already read that I know I'm not going to come back to, or just things that are never going to hit for me. If you've been on my channel, you know that I have several e-readers, and ultimately my goal is to be mostly digitally reading. However, there are certain books that I pick up. I love the witchy romance books. I just did a haul on that, my birthday haul. Go check that out. If I'm in the middle of a series, I like to buy that whole series of books. So there's like different reasons why I have physical books, but sometimes I just get in the mood for a physical book. And then I get overwhelmed because I have too many books everywhere. So the bookshelf we're sitting in front of is a shorter bookshelf, and it has quite a few of the popular books, but it also holds my Babysitters Club collection. And it's just getting overrun by so many books. You can see I don't have space for everything. So I wanted to go through and unhaul some books. So let me show you what I'm unhauling. I don't know how many books there are here, maybe about 25-ish, maybe. But I am going to head over to Half Price Books and make a little day of it. Half Price Books is probably a good 30-35 minutes away from us. And so it's on a totally different side of town, totally different things over there. And so when we're going to go, we make a whole day of it. And so after my youngest has swim class today, we're going to come home, refresh, and head out that way. So let's talk about the books that I'm unhauling. So the way I unhaul is I literally just go to my bookshelves and pull off books that I know I'm not going to read, or that I've read I'm not going to come back to. I originally was a person who just never reread books, although this year I have found joy in rereading some books that I raced through when they first dropped, and I just wanted to reread them and find that joy again. And so I'm not anti-rereading books, but if I see a book I know I'm not going to come back to, I'm unhauling it. So here's the first book that the set I'm going to unhaul is some Magnolia Parks books. So I do have the first classic cover of Magnolia Parks, so I'm hoping this gives me a little bit more bang for my buck at Half Price Books. I did read this a couple of years ago, did not love it. I don't even think I got through the whole thing. I think I probably skimmed the end. And then I went over to Daisy Hates, which if you've been following my channel, you know I've been sitting on this for a hot minute, trying to get through it. It was better than Magnolia Parks, but I just don't care. And so I'm not going to continue to read it. And then I also, in my delusion of reading this book, I was like, okay, let me get The Great Undoing. And I have not picked this up. The spine has not been cracked. It's just been sitting on my shelf. And so I know I'm not going to read these. So I'm just going to go ahead and unhaul those. Then I have this book, L. Kennedy's The Dixon Rule. I did read The Graham Effect. I didn't love it. This book started off better, but I haven't been wanting to pick it back up. And these are generally on Kindle Unlimited, so I don't need this physical copy. So I'm getting rid of that. Okay, next I have a selection of random paperbacks and one hardback that I'm going to give away. And these are given away just because either I've started them or I never picked them up and it's not going to happen. And then I'll talk about the Book of the Month Club books that I'm giving back. Okay, so first is Never by Jessa Hastings. I picked this up last year. To be honest, I again was in delusion that Jessa Hastings was going to be the author for me. She's not. And I started this book. This is like a Peter Pan retelling, and it's kind of like toxic male energy. This is like what Jessa Hastings writes. I got maybe like 30 pages into it, and I was like, okay, I can maybe do this. And then I just stopped. I was swayed by the indie feel of this book. It's got that matte cover. It's a floppy book, but I'm not interested in reading it. Then I have Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. This is The Last Hours book number 1. Let's just be real. I'm not going to read this series. I have tried a little bit, And I'm not going to read this series. So it's just been sitting on my shelf in the anticipation for other books to come out. There have been other great fantasy books that I've been into, but I've never come back to this one, so we're done. Then I picked up, in between book drops from Allie Hazelwood, I picked up Loathe to Love You, and this is just a collection of short stories with the whole STEM background, and I honestly have not read one in here. There's a Highlights magazine subscription in here, but I have not, literally it's not even cracked on the spine. I don't intend on reading this, and I think a lot of these are on Kindle Unlimited too, so that's out. Then I picked up a book called Straight Expectations. It was 50% off from Barnes & Noble. I thought the concept was cute. It's like about a guy who is gay, and he wants to just sort of, what was it? He wanted to, like, he basically makes a wish in the, in a mirror or something, and he gets to live like his straight life. He thinks he wants to be normal, quote unquote normal. There is no normal. And that he's miserable. I just never got to it. Nothing wrong with the book. I just never got to it. I don't think I'm going to come to it. It is very teen YA, like young YA, and so I'm okay. Next up, I have A Novel Story by Ashley Poston. This is new, and so I'm hopeful that this will give good bang for the buck, but I just did not enjoy this book. I've tried a couple of Ashley Poston books now, and she's not my favorite. I don't like her spin on magical realism because it is like not well thought out, and her timeline play is not my favorite. I do like timeline stories when they're done really well. Rebecca Searle does them really well in my opinion. Nothing against Ashley Poston, I just don't enjoy her style of the timeline play. So I'm going to pass that on. Then a while ago, I picked up the book Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe. This is the book that the movie Fried Green Tomatoes is based off of. I love that movie, and I thought this would be a great book to have on my shelf, and it's been sitting for over 2 years. I don't need to read the book. I love the movie, and I'm okay with that. So it's just sitting here. Might as well give that to somebody who might want it. Then I have a couple of kids books that we picked up for different reading contests and competitions for my youngest. One book is called Click Here. This is a book about clicks. We got it from a book fair, and it's just been sitting. This isn't like her style of book, and at this point now it's just a little bit too easy for her. And then we had 2 books that were on a reading list that we were doing last year, Ahmed Aziz's Epic Year and Winterborn Home. We've read these both, and it's time to pass them on to somebody else who might enjoy them. Then I have Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book is in pristine condition because I ended up listening to the audio on a trip to Chicago. I really enjoyed it, and then it was done. I don't think about this book anymore. I was part of the craze of it, and I'm good with that. And so I'm going to pass this on to somebody else. This is also the original cover, so not the Netflix cover. So this might be a good bang for the buck. Okay, next, another new one that I'm just not going to get to is Tangled Up in You by Christina Lauren. I do love Christina Lauren as a writing pair. However, this book did not hit for me. It is the Rapunzel retelling, and what I didn't love about this book as I started reading it was that the main girl, Ren, is like overly sheltered, homeschooled, whatever, and they really play that up in this book. Like, she's never held an iPhone. She doesn't know what certain words mean. It's like, are you homeschooled or are you like in a cave? I don't know, but it wasn't hitting for me. And so let's just pass that on to somebody else who might like it. Then the last 2 books in this sort of paperback category, I have The Only Game in Town by Lacey Walden. This one's a little beat up on the edge, so I don't know what they'll do with this one. However, I did not enjoy this. It's on one of my reading wrap-ups, but it's basically about a guy who comes back to a small town that his grandpa lived in and was a huge influence in after his grandpa passes away. He meets a local girl, and they kind of have this inheritance game sort of thing going on where the grandpa wants all the townspeople to team up and play these games so that they can like have fun in the town, and then like the inheritance is passed out, whatever. But It didn't hit for me because the guy and the girl who are supposed to end up together in the end aren't even on the same team during this time. So yeah, that was a no-go for me. And then the last one is Things You Left Behind by Lucy Score. And this is a signed edition, which is super cool. I think they were all signed, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But I read this already. I'm not coming back to these. The Knock 'Em Out series is all on Kindle Unlimited. They're very long, and so I don't need to revisit. I get it, and we're moving on. All right, let's talk about the Book of the Month Club books that have been so good to me, but I am passing on to somebody else. Okay, as I was going through my Book of the Month Club books, I realized there were a couple of books that I had duplicates of, and so let's talk about that. So the first one I'm giving away is The Rom-Commers by Catherine Sinter. This is the Book of the Month Club version, but then I also bought the Barnes & Noble version because obviously pink, and that stood out to me. So I'm going to keep this version and give away this version. This book is just okay for me. It was very predictable in ways. Oh, bookmark. Nice. Very predictable in ways, and I didn't love it. Catherine Sinter is like really hit or miss for me. I think I liked The Bodyguard a lot, and since then I've only liked her other books like a little bit, not a ton. So I mean, I will continue to buy it, but it's okay to give it away. Maybe next time I'll borrow it and not rush. Okay, next up I am giving away The Wedding People. I just finished this book. I did a lot of it on audio, and it was such a good book, but I won't come back to it again. The themes are kind of heavy in it, and I don't need to revisit, but super good book. I did talk about this in a recent wrap-up, but we follow a girl, a woman who is, her name is Phoebe, and her life's kind of falling apart for many reasons. So she decides to go to this hotel in Rhode Island for a very specific reason, and she runs into a wedding, and the wedding party is all there occupying the entire hotel. She has the one room that's not a part of the wedding. Her and the bride become friends of sorts, and like we get these backstories of why Phoebe's here. Really good story, great literary fiction. I don't need to read it again. Next up is Jackpot Summer. I never got to this. I had tried to read it a couple of times and it just didn't hit for me. So I'm putting that back. But that one's basically about a family whose mom passes away. And as a family, all but one of the kids buys a lottery ticket. And then the lottery ticket wins. They have to figure out what they're going to do. Would they give the other sibling who didn't participate money? But there's also like discussions of grief in this book as they're packing up the house and getting it ready to be sold. So I just didn't drive with it. Okay, next up is Ready or Not by Kara Bastone. This book is incredible. I love this book, and I have a digital copy of it. So I'm just giving this away because I don't need it. I have a digital copy. Very good book, though. Highly recommend. And this book follows Eve, and she has a one-night stand and ends up pregnant, and so we find out who the father is. We spend the whole book sort of like navigating how they will have a relationship, and her friend's brother steps up as a huge support system for Eve. So I loved this book. It was just not the typical trope, which I liked. Next up, I just finished The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I hope this is a good hit for Half Price Books. It's brand new, such a good book. It's very long. What are we talking, like almost 500 pages. I did a lot of this on audio on a week that I had a lot of commuting. Such a good book. I will not come back to it for any other reason that it's like a mystery in a way, and once the mystery is solved, you don't need to come back to it. So I will not read that again. The next book I am giving away is Christina Lauren's The Paradise Problem, and although I did just say I love Christina Lauren's writing, these two books did not necessarily hit for me. While I did finish this book, I will never come back to it. I never think about it. It's a very typical forced proximity, fake relationship book, and I felt like they could have done so much more, especially when we wait a whole year for Christina Lauren. Like, I want the books to hit, and that one did not. Okay, next up is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. I have tried to read this twice. and I just don't think it's going to happen for me. I think if anything, I want to read this at some point. I can borrow it from the library, but I don't want it holding up space on my bookshelf because I don't enjoy it. But this book follows a paraprofessional, Lucy, who is also a huge fan of this author who writes sort of like, I liken them to like a Magic Treehouse style book. And she's very close to a student in her class who's an orphan. She wants to adopt him, so they're working on that. And then she gets asked to help with her favorite author's ending of the story. That's as far as I got, and it just didn't hit for me, so I didn't like it. Next up, I am giving The 5-Star Weekend by Ellen Hildebrand, to Half Price Books. I have nothing wrong with this story. I like Ellen Hildebrand, and I never come back to her books, and so why do I need it? Just give that one away. Next up is The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. I have eyed this a couple times to give to Half Price Books, but I really did enjoy this book, and this book follows a group of writers who go to this sort of writing house led by an author, and weird things start happening, and it becomes like a thriller sort of horror story, and it is really good. All these bookmarks I'm finding. It is really good, but I'm not going to come back to it, and so that's okay, because again, thriller, mysteries, we don't need to keep diving into them. Okay, I have 3 more books that I'm going to give to Half Price Books. The first is V.E. Schwab's The Fragile Threads of Power. I got this again for Book of the Month Club book, thinking, wow, I'm really going to push myself and challenge myself to read this book. 600 plus pages, and here it sits on the bookshelf. It's not something I'm going to read. I haven't read really any V.E. Schwab books, and so I'm not a fan of hers, but I'm not going to read it, so let's clear up some space there. And then the last 2 books I'm going to give or sell to Half Price Books. I'm going to give up Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. It's a duology. It is fantasy, sort of magical realism, and they've been the hype everywhere, and so I got them both from Book of the Month Club, but I just have not picked them up. I've tried Divine Rivals a few pages in, and it just hasn't hooked me. I know that everybody loves this, but I don't, and so I don't think I'm going to read this or read the second book. However, this is on Kindle Unlimited, so if at some point I want to go back and read this, I can. But for right now, it's a no for me. So those are the books that I'm going to unhaul, and I'm going to pack these up and hopefully get some footage while I am at Half Price Books to see if there's anything that I want. Again, I am really trying to stick to digital. If you're watching this and you're my husband, you don't need to laugh, but I am trying to stick to digital. It's really hard because I love walking around bookstores, but I don't need all of this clutter in the house. So those are the books that I am giving or selling to Half Price Books, and let's see what they offer us. Okay, I feel like a real book girly now because I have a microphone, but it is later, hair has changed, location has changed, and I'm back from Half Price Books. I tried to insert some footage as we were walking around waiting for the books to be evaluated, and today I made a whopping $67 with my books, so I was really excited about that. But aside from the money, the best thing that happened was the lady checking in the books said that my books were amazing books. They were very well kept, very nice and demure, and that lots of people would be excited to get these books. So I was super excited. That was like the highlight, like getting a compliment that your books are in pristine condition is elite. So overall, it was a great day of unhauling. I feel like I got rid of a good chunk of books that I knew I wasn't going to come to or get to in the reading, and happy to pass them along to people who might really enjoy them. And $67 is not bad. Obviously, it doesn't equal the price that you paid for the books, but $67 on a random day is good to me. I did not buy anything there, although my oldest bought some CDs there and a nice Dunder Mifflin sign. I was all too happy to find things for her, but I did not buy anything myself. So $67 in my pocket, and it's a good day. So that is the end of the Unhaul video. Comment down below how you feel about unhauling and how many books do you unhaul, or do you unhaul at all? And until next time, we'll see you. Bye, guys.